Hey there, my fellow lunatics, and welcome to Dakon's Madhouse. Some people treat summoning as if it's just a secondary skill and not a main build that can be used from the start of the game to the end game. But the fact is that it can be. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of just go over 3 different potential builds. These are not all the possible builds you can have, and I'm definitely leaving stuff out. These are just 3 potentials from early game, mid game, and late game to get you a feel for what summoning can be like if you want to make it your primary build. For this early game build, I'm using primarily the Tome of the Dark, although you could use the Tome of Ashes if you want, though it is really designed around Tome of the Dark. I'm starting with a Witch Doctor hat, as well as having the Chieftain Tunic and the Chieftain Shorts as my main sets of armor. The Witch Doctor hat can be found in the dirt biome off of the various fungal creatures and destructible items, while the Chieftain set can be found in the clay caverns off of the various caveling skirmishers and destructible items there. For a light source, I'm just using a basic lantern, although if you wanted to use something like a small lantern because it's craftable, or if you wanted to use the pumpkin lantern from the Sawin event for the health regen, that's also perfectly viable. On the necklace front, I've gone with the gold crystal necklace primarily because it's craftable, making it easier to get. However, if you want to use the skull necklace for that extra boost in minion damage, which is really significant, despite the health penalty, I recommend going with the skull necklace as well. The health penalty is really not that much, even in the early game, especially compared to the amount of minion damage that you get from it. There really aren't any good offhand items in the early game, so what I've done is I've gone with the blue leather tome because it has good magic damage. Not that that really helps me much, but it does give me some mana regen, which is useful in the early game so that you can keep churning out your summons. Really, for your offhand, you can use whatever you want. If you prefer the Swift Feather, a shield, or the Rift Lens, all of those things are also perfectly viable. For my rings, I have gone with the Hourglass ring, as this is really the only decent minion ring you're going to get early on in the game. It increases my minion lifespan, which is helpful, especially since you don't have a lot of mana. So getting that mana regen, or at least having those minions last longer so that you don't need to summon them as much, can be very useful. The Hourglass rings can be found in the Forgotten Ruins off of Cavelings or in the large ancient crates. You can also find it off of various bosses like the Hive Mother and Malagaz. If you don't want to use the Hourglass rings, or you're struggling to find Hourglass rings, I would recommend defensive-based rings like anything that increases your health or anything that increases your armor. And then, of course, I've got Gorm's Stomach Bag for our backpack slot, as it's really the best backpack during the early game. From a pet standpoint, I honestly recommend any kind of melee pet. I've gone with the Subterrier for this build, just because I really like the taunt abilities that the Subterriers have, as they are extremely useful in keeping the enemies focused on someone other than you, so that your minions can do their job. Finally, from a skill standpoint, I've decided to go down the critical hit side. But in the early game, having the assistance to your range skill to give you a boost when your summons aren't enough is helpful. So if you use ranged as your support, go with power in numbers. This build's maximum minion count sits at 5. So for the mid-game, we have switched over to the Corrupt Warden set. This can be found in Azios' Wilderness off of Azios, Ivy, as well as various slime destructibles and flower destructibles throughout the biome. This set primarily focuses around minion damage, adding to your maximum mana, and getting minion critical hit chance increased. So you can see here that my minion has a 35% critical hit chance, 104% damage, and a pretty decent attack speed boost as well. This is a 5 minion count build, so you're not increasing the amount of minions you have in this build versus the previous build. However, you are increasing how effective your minions are. I've switched over to the Soul Lantern to increase my minion attack speed. This drops off of Raw Car. And I'm currently using the Polished Gold Crystal Necklace, which you can craft. and this increases my minion damage. It also increases my magic damage, which really doesn't matter as much. So if you prefer and you've got it, go with the skull necklace instead. That minus 37 health really isn't that big of a deal. And the plus 51% to your minion damage is excellent. Frankly, I think it's better than the polished gold crystal necklace. However, you can craft this. So if you don't have the skull necklace, this is much easier to get. From a ring standpoint, frankly, you can use either the puppet ring or the vicious ring, or a combination of the two. I just have one of each here just as an example. If you want an extra minion, go with a second puppet ring to get you up to 6 minions. However, the extra damage is also perfectly viable. Really, it's up to you, your preferences, and your play style. For the offhand on this one, I've actually gone with the Moonstone. And this, I feel, is kind of a decent defensive item because the set provides you with bonuses to your maximum mana from the Corrupt Warden. So I currently have a mana count of 217, and I'm not really using all of that mana. So why not take the advantage of having the damage get absorbed by my mana pool? So now I'm going to have a barrier that's going to get bigger because of I've got Tough Gang, which adds 75 magic barrier per active minion. So I'm going to have 5, maybe even 6 active minions. So I'm going to have a pretty good magic barrier. I'm going to have decent mana. And at this point, you should have some pretty good permanent boosts to your hit points. So the Moonstone can be a very effective defensive item. If you want to go more offensive, you can go with the Minion Detonator for that extra 35% minion damage. Just be really, really careful you don't accidentally detonate your minions somewhere you don't want to and blow up stuff that's important to you. My bag, I've gone with the Scholar Backpack just for that extra mana. The magic damage, again, doesn't really matter. And then for minions, I've gone with the new Arcane Symbiote minion because of the mana regen option that it has. However, if you prefer the Snuggly Grade, the Snuggly Grade also works really, really well and is perfectly viable as a mana regeneration pet also. From a skill standpoint, over in the magic tree, I've actually made my magic barrier regeneration delay reduced. And I've added this Arcane Transfusion, which allows me to recover 2% of my magic barrier as mana every second. So combining that with the Moonstone, I'm going to be regenerating my mana. I'm going to be losing my mana, but these skills are helping me along with this extra Tough Gang for extra barrier to just help regenerate my barrier, bring my barrier back, have a decent barrier. These are my defensive capabilities that I'm using at this point in the game. When it comes to which tome you use, frankly, any of the tomes work well. I like the Tome of Ashes. I also like the Tome of Sprouts during this time of the game. So it depends on if you prefer ranged or melee. Both of these books are very, very good and can easily be used. I think the Tome of Sprouts is a little bit better myself, but either one, you could even combine and mix the two a little bit if you prefer. All right, now let's go ahead and take a look at Endgame. What I've gone with is a Grim set, and you can find the full Grim set off of Lava Slimes, in Charred Crates, or off of Igneous. Basically, anywhere in the Molten Quarry is where you're going to find some of this Grim armor. I've leveled everything up to 19. I've still got my Soul Lantern leveled up to 19. I've still got my Skull Necklace leveled up to 19. Now, I've switched my offhand to the Minion Detonator. This can be found off of Nimruza, the burrowing sand queen, or whatever she's called. She's in the Desert of Beginnings. I've got this for the minion damage. However, if you don't have the Minion Detonator yet, or you don't want to use it because of its offhand ability being just terrible sometimes, go with the Blue Leather Tome for the extra mana regeneration, just because that can be really helpful. Also, if you prefer the Soul Medallion, also is an excellent necklace. You could wear this instead of the Skull Necklace if you want that extra minion count. Really just depends on, do you prefer an extra minion, or do you prefer the extra 76% damage, or 73% damage? With the Rings, nothing has really changed from the mid game other than just leveling up the rings. If you prefer the vicious ring or the puppet ring, combination of the two, go with your personal preferences. None of that has actually changed. We've just leveled up the rings. The same is true for the scholar backpack, just level it up. And when it comes to the actual tome that you're using, I prefer the Tome of Sprouts during the end game, at least for the Grim build. I also enjoy using the Tome of Decay. Speaking of skills, I've gone all the way down the skill tree to increase my minion lifespan, and I've still got Tough Gang. Pretty much everything's the same as I had been building the whole time. I just added power and numbers to give my ranged attacks a little bit of a boost. On the magic side, I've also continued to go down the mana regeneration tree just to help give me that synergy with mana regeneration, because I still have a decent amount of it here, even though I'm not using the offhand for the Moonstone anymore. If you want to keep using the Moonstone, you can into the Grim set, although it's not quite as effective as it was in the mid game. Alternatively, you could use the Desert Guardian set if you want something different other than the Grim set. These all drop off of Nimruza. If you are using the Desert Guardian set, I highly recommend you use the Minion Detonator, if for no other reason than just for making your life easier when you're in your base. Because the Desert Guardian has that 3-set bonus where your minions explode when they despawn. And you really don't want them to despawn in your base and blow up things that are important. So using the Minion Detonator early so that you can get rid of all your minions before you go to your base is really vital. So if you're going to use the Desert Guardian set, use the Minion Detonator also. Ultimately, whatever set you decide, whatever build you use, just make sure that you're having fun and that you are enjoying your summoner class, because they are more than just a support class. Summoners are absolutely a major class in this game and definitely worthy of attention. They're a lot of fun, and they're kind of, to me, like a passive way to play the game, because you're not attacking yourself, but you are still very focused on making sure that your minions are up and that they are engaged. So it's still really fun, even if you aren't directly attacking yourself. And there you have it, folks. I hope you found this video informative and helpful. If you did, please be sure to hit that like button to help give the video a little bit of a boost. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and click on the bell notification so you don't miss any of my regularly released content. But we have more. If you want to support the channel a little extra, you can become a channel member to get exclusive membership benefits like early access to my videos, exclusive members-only content, a members-only Discord community, and more. So thank you all to my current and future supporters. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. Thank you all for watching. Stay happy, stay healthy, and above all, stay crazy, my friends.